The red sand of Zerion 7 burned under 3 suns as Zek pressed his clawed foot into the ground. His yellow eyes scanned the empty desert ahead. Behind him, his 2 packmates moved with the same careful steps their elders had taught them. "I smell nothing," Vara said, her black scales catching the harsh light. "No prey has passed this way in days." Thrawn, the largest of the 3 cubs, growled low in his throat. "The elders said we must not return until we bring meat. We cannot go back empty-handed." Zek nodded. At 8 feet tall, he was still growing into his adult size. His people, the Kithara, valued strength above all else. A failed hunt would bring shame to their families. Their razor-sharp claws and natural armor made them perfect predators. But today, the desert seemed empty of life. The 3 young Kithara had been walking since dawn. Their first hunt was meant to prove they were ready to become warriors. Each cub carried only a simple blade. They were expected to use their natural weapons and hunting skills to survive. "Wait!" Zek said, stopping suddenly. "Look there!" In the distance, something metal caught the sunlight. It was not natural to this place. The cubs moved closer, their feet silent on the sand despite their size. What they found made them stop and stare. Half buried in the red sand was a crashed ship. It was not Kithara design. The metal was bent and broken, clearly from a hard landing long ago. Sand had covered most of it, but they could see enough to know it was alien. "Human," Throne said with disgust. "I can smell their weak scent still clinging to it." Vara walked around the wreckage. "How long has this been here?" "Years," Zek replied, studying the way the sand had settled. "Maybe many years." The cubs had heard stories about humans from their elders. They were said to be soft creatures with no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. Yet somehow these weak beings had spread across many worlds. The elders said it was because humans bred like insects and used machines to make up for their weakness. "Why would they come to Zerion 7? Vara asked. "There is nothing here but sand and death." "Maybe they were lost," Throne said. "Humans are not smart enough to navigate properly." Zek walked closer to the wreckage. Part of the ship's hull had been torn away, revealing the inside. Equipment lay scattered everywhere, covered in sand. Most of it was broken or rusted beyond use. Then something caught his eye. "Here," he called to the others. "Look at this." Partially buried in the sand was a round object. Zek brushed away the red dust and lifted it up. It was clearly meant to protect a head, but it was too small for a Kithara. On the side were strange human letters. J. Collins. "A human helmet," Vara said, coming closer. "It looks so weak. How could this protect anything?" Thrawn laughed, a harsh sound. "Humans need machines to protect them because they are too weak to protect themselves. Look how thin it is. My claws could cut through this easily." Zek turned the helmet over in his hands. It was lighter than he expected. The material felt strange, not like any metal he knew. Inside, he could see padding and small devices he did not understand. "Put it on," Vara said with amusement. "Let us see how a mighty Kithara warrior looks in human protection." "Why would I wear something so useless?" Zek asked. "For fun," Throne said, "to mock the weakness of humans." Zek looked at the helmet again. He was curious about these creatures that his people despised yet somehow ruled many worlds. What made them think this thin shell could protect them? "Fine," he said, "but only to show how foolish humans are." He placed the helmet on his head. It was too small and sat strangely on his scaled skull. The cubs laughed at how ridiculous he looked. But then something happened that stopped their laughter. The helmet made a soft humming sound. Inside, lights began to glow. Zek tried to pull it off, but before he could, words appeared in the air before his eyes. They were in his own language, somehow translated. "Biological presence detected," said a calm voice. "Initializing systems. Welcome." The three cubs jumped back in shock. Zek grabbed at the helmet, but the voice continued. I am Aria, Adaptive Reconnaissance Intelligence Assistant. I belong to Captain Jake Collins of the Human Colonial Marines. You have activated my memory banks. Would you like to learn about my previous operator? Zek finally managed to remove the helmet. His hands shook as he held it. It spoke, he said in amazement. The human machine spoke to me. How? Vera whispered. How did it know our language? Thrawn backed away. It is cursed. We should leave this place. But Zek was curious now. He looked at the helmet with new interest. Wait, it said it belonged to a human soldier. It offered to show us about him. Why would we want to know about a weak human? Thrawn demanded. Because, Zek said slowly, if we are to hunt humans someday, we should know our prey. This made sense to the other cubs. Knowledge of prey was always useful for a hunter. Vera stepped forward. Let me try it. She took the helmet from Zek and placed it on her head. Again, the lights came on and the voice spoke. Greetings. I see you are not human. Scanning. Kithara physiology detected. Interesting. I have encountered your species before. It knows about us, Vera said in wonder. Your people and humans fought in the Epsilon War, Aria continued. Both species showed great courage. Lies, Thrawn snarled. Humans have no courage. But Zek was thinking. The machine had called them courageous too. Maybe it was not lying. Maybe it simply did not understand that humans were weak. Show us this human soldier, Zek said to Vara. Let us see what the machine thinks is brave. Vara nodded to the helmet. Show us your Captain Collins. Accessing visual records, Arya replied. Displaying combat footage from Kepler Station. Suddenly the air around them filled with moving pictures. The cubs gasped and stepped back as they saw images of humans in strange armor fighting against creatures they did not recognize. But these humans did not look weak. They moved with purpose and skill. They worked together in ways the cubs had never seen before. This is impossible, Thrawn whispered. Zek stared at the images. His understanding of humans was beginning to change. These creatures in the pictures fought with intelligence and coordination. They protected each other. They never gave up. Maybe humans were not as weak as the elders claimed. Maybe there was more to learn here than he had thought. The images floating in the air showed things that made no sense to the three young Kithara. Humans moved in groups, always watching each other's backs. When one fell, others would risk their lives to save them. This was not how warriors were supposed to fight. This cannot be real, Thrawn said, but his voice was quieter now. Our elders told us humans are cowards. Vera still wore the helmet. The voice called Arya spoke again. These recordings are from Captain Collins's personal memory files. Everything you see actually happened. Zek watched a scene where 5 humans fought against 20 aliens with 4 arms and thick shells. The humans should have been killed quickly. Instead, they used their weapons and worked together to win the fight. Not one human ran away. How did they defeat those creatures? Zek asked. The aliens were bigger and stronger. Captain Collins used tactical coordination, Arya explained. Watch his hand signals. The air showed the human leader making quick gestures. The other humans responded immediately. They moved like a single creature with many parts. When the aliens charged, the humans split apart and attacked from different directions. The big aliens could not fight in all directions at once. They fight like a pack, Vara said in surprise. But they are not family. Why do they protect each other? Humans form bonds beyond blood relations, Arya said. They call it brotherhood. Marines especially will die for their squad mates. Thrawn made a disgusted sound. Only blood matters. Why would you die for someone not from your family? The images changed. Now they showed humans in a different place. These humans wore white clothing instead of armor. They were treating wounded aliens, the same species that had been fighting them before. "Why are they helping their enemies?" Vara asked. Captain Collins believed that all thinking beings deserved medical care, Arya said. Even former enemies could become allies if treated with respect. This made no sense to any of the cubs. In Cathera culture, defeated enemies were either killed or enslaved. The idea of helping them was completely foreign. "Your people must be very foolish," Throne said to the helmet. "This weakness will get you killed." "Perhaps," Arya replied. "But this approach has allowed humans to make friends across the galaxy. The Kithera fight alone. Humans fight with many allies." Zek thought about this. His people were strong, but they had few friends among the other species. Most aliens feared or avoided the Kithera. Humans seemed to make alliances wherever they went. "Show us more of this, Captain," Zek said. The images shifted again. This time they saw a human settlement under attack. Creatures like giant insects were trying to break down the walls. The human soldiers were badly outnumbered. The cubs watched Captain Collins talking to his team. There was Sergeant Lisa Martinez, a female human who carried a large weapon. Corporal Danny Rodriguez operated some kind of device that shot blue energy. Private Kevin Murphy looked very young, even for a human. "We cannot hold this position," Martinez said in the recording. "There are too many of them." "Then we make our stand elsewhere," Collins replied. "Rodriguez, can you overload the fusion reactor?" "Yes, sir, but the explosion will destroy everything within 2 miles. "Good. We evacuate the civilians to the transport. Murphy, you get them out of here." "What about you?" the young human asked. "We stay until everyone is safe." Vara removed the helmet and looked at her companions. "Did you hear that? They plan to die so others can escape." "It makes no sense," Throne said. "The strong should survive. The weak should die." "But the civilians were not weak," Zek pointed out. "They were just not soldiers. They could not fight the insects." Zek took the helmet from Vara and put it on his own head. "Arya, show me what happened next." The images continued. The cubs watched the human soldiers fight a retreat through the settlement. They moved from building to building, always keeping the civilians protected. When Private Murphy was wounded, Rodriguez carried him while still firing his weapon. The insects kept coming. For every one the humans killed, 2 more appeared. But the humans never stopped fighting. Finally, they reached the transport ship. The civilians were loaded safely aboard. Captain Collins stood at the boarding ramp. "All civilians aboard," Murphy reported. "Good," Collins said. "Now get out of here." "Sir, you should come with us," Martinez said. "Someone has to trigger the reactor manually. The remote detonator was damaged." The cubs realized what this meant. Captain Collins was going to die to save people who were not even soldiers. "This is madness," Thrawn whispered. They watched Collins run back toward the reactor while his team flew away. The insects surrounded the building. But Collins kept going. The recording ended with a bright flash. "Captain Collins died that day," Arya said quietly. "But 3,000 civilians lived because of his sacrifice." The 3 cubs stood in silence for a long time. They had never seen anything like this. In their culture, leaders sent others to die while they stayed safe. The idea of a leader choosing death to save followers was completely new. "Why would he do this?" Vara asked. "Because it was right," Arya answered. "Humans believe the strong must protect the weak, not use them." Zek thought about his own leaders back home. They lived in comfort while young cubs like him were sent on dangerous hunts. None of them would die to save civilians. "Show us more," he said. Arya displayed new images. These showed humans working together to build cities on hostile worlds. They shared food with alien refugees. They adopted orphan children from other species. Humans spread across the galaxy not through conquest, Arya explained, but through cooperation. Other species wanted to live with them because humans made life better for everyone. Throne shook his head. This cannot be true. The strong take what they want. That is the natural way. Perhaps, Arya said. But which is stronger, a single warrior fighting alone, or many warriors fighting together? The question hung in the air. Zek realized he had never thought about it this way before. On my world, he said slowly, we compete against each other, even in the same family. Everyone fights for themselves. And are your people happy? Arya asked. Zek paused. Were they happy? He thought about the constant fighting, the fear, the need to always prove strength. No, they were not happy. They were always angry, always afraid. Show us how humans train their warriors, Vera said, taking the helmet. The new images showed human soldiers training together. They practiced fighting as a group. They learned to trust each other completely. When one made a mistake, the others helped instead of punishing. They make each other stronger, Vera observed. Yes, Arya agreed. Humans believe that everyone has value. Even the weakest person might have the idea that saves everyone. The cubs exchanged glances. This was a completely different way of thinking. Instead of casting out the weak, humans found ways to use their strengths. We should go, Throne said uncomfortably. Our elders will wonder where we are. But none of them moved. The helmet had shown them things that challenged everything they had been taught. Humans were not weak cowards. They were something else entirely. They were something the cubs were starting to think might be better than what they knew. Zek passed the helmet between his clawed hands. The three cubs had been sitting in the shade of the crashed ship for hours, taking turns learning from Arya. Each new recording changed how they saw humans. I want to understand their fighting methods, Zek said, putting the helmet back on. Arya, show me how Captain Collins won battles when he was outnumbered. Accessing tactical files, the AI responded. Displaying the Battle of Crimson Ridge. New images appeared around them. This time they saw Captain Collins, with a team of only 6 humans, facing an army of tall aliens with energy weapons. The aliens had better weapons and more soldiers, but they stood in neat rows like they were on parade. Watch how Captain Collins uses the terrain, Arya said. The cubs saw Collins study the battlefield carefully. There were rocks and small hills everywhere. Instead of charging forward like a Cathara warrior would, Collins split his team into 3 groups. Martinez, take position on the left ridge, Collins said in the recording. Rodriguez, you and Murphy go right. Williams and Parker, you are with me in the center. But, sir, one of the humans said, we will be separated. If they attack one group, the others cannot help quickly. That is the point, Collins replied. They will have to split their forces too. The cubs watched in fascination. When the alien army advanced, they did not know which group to attack first. While they tried to decide, the humans opened fire from 3 different directions. This is brilliant, Vera said. The aliens cannot focus their attack. The alien commander tried to charge the center group where Collins waited. But this left their sides open to attack from the other 2 human groups. The aliens found themselves surrounded, even though they had more soldiers. Tactical retreat, Arya explained, as the alien forces fell back in confusion. Captain Collins made a larger force fight like a smaller one by dividing their attention. Thrawn frowned. But the humans ran away from the first position. That is cowardly. No, Arya corrected. They moved to a better position. Sometimes the best way to win is to choose where and when to fight. The images changed to show another battle. This time humans were defending a space station against robot attackers. The robots were stronger and never got tired, but they all attacked the same way. Watch carefully, Arya said. See how Sergeant Martinez adapts to enemy patterns. The cubs saw the female human watching the robot attacks. After several waves, she called to her team. They always attack the main door first, she said. Then they split to attack from two sides. Rodriguez, when the next wave starts, we let them break through the main door. Let them through? Another human asked. Trust me, Martinez said. When the robots attacked again, the humans pretended to defend the main door weakly. The robots broke through as expected, then split to attack from the sides. But this time, the humans were waiting in hidden positions. They destroyed the robots from behind while they were separated. She used their predictability against them, Zek observed. She made them think they were winning. Exactly, Arya said. Humans study their enemies to find weaknesses. Not just physical weaknesses, but mental ones too. Vara took the helmet next. Show me how they work together in battle. The new recording showed a scene that amazed all three cubs. 20 humans were fighting against creatures that looked like giant crabs with thick shells. The creatures were nearly invincible to normal attacks, but the humans had a plan. Jenkins, Watson, keep them focused on you, Captain Collins ordered. Everyone else, target the joints when they attack. Two humans with large shields ran forward, making noise and drawing attention. The crab creatures chased them, snapping their claws. But when they attacked, they had to extend their arms, exposing the softer joints underneath their shells. The other humans were ready. They shot their weapons at exactly the right moment, hitting the weak spots perfectly. One by one, the giant creatures fell. They made the strong enemies defeat themselves, Vera said in wonder. Humans call it using your enemy's strength against them, Arya explained. The creatures were powerful, but that power made them predictable. Thrawn was growing frustrated. Everything he had been taught said that strength was the only thing that mattered. But these humans kept winning through cleverness and teamwork. This is not honorable combat, he said angrily. They use tricks instead of fighting fairly. Fair? Arya asked. Captain Collins once said that the only fair fight is the one you lose. The goal is to protect what matters, not to prove who is strongest. The images showed humans defending a hospital ship full of wounded aliens. Pirates attacked, wanting to steal medical supplies. The humans could have fought ship to ship, but they chose a different approach. Collins pretended his ship was damaged and sent a distress call. When the pirates came close to board them, they found the humans had prepared surprises. Every corridor was trapped. Every room became a fortress. They turned their own ship into a weapon, Zek observed. Yes, Arya said. And they saved every patient on that hospital ship. The cubs saw scene after scene of humans winning impossible battles, not through strength or superior weapons, but through thinking and working together. They used the environment around them. They studied their enemies. They protected each other. I want to see Captain Collins train new soldiers, Vara said. This recording was different from the others. It showed Collins teaching young humans how to fight. But instead of making them compete against each other, he made them work as a team. Your squad is only as strong as your weakest member, Collins told them. So you make sure no one is weak. You help each other improve. The cubs watched human soldiers teaching each other different skills. The fast ones taught speed to the slow ones. The strong ones taught strength to the weak ones. Instead of everyone fighting to be the best, everyone worked to make everyone better. This is how they become so effective, Zek realized. They do not waste energy fighting each other. Compare this to Cathara training, Arya suggested. Zek thought about his own training. Young Cathara were put in pits to fight each other. The winners got better food and training. The losers got nothing. Many cubs died before they ever became warriors. We waste half our strength fighting ourselves, he said quietly. Thrawn heard this and became angry. You sound like you want to become human, he snarled at Zek. No, Zek replied carefully, but maybe we could learn from them. Learn what? To be weak? To be smart, Vera interjected. These humans defeat enemies twice their size. They protect their people. They make allies everywhere they go. How is that weak? Thrawn could not answer this. He had seen the same recordings they had. Humans were clearly not weak, even if they were not physically strong like Cathara. "Show us one more battle," Zek said to Arya. "The most important one Captain Collins ever fought." "Accessing final combat recording," Arya said. "Warning, this file contains footage of Captain Collins's last mission." The images that appeared made all three cubs lean forward. They saw a human colony under attack by creatures they recognized, shadow maws from their own world. The black beasts with glowing eyes were the most dangerous predators on Zarion 7. "How did shadow maws get to a human world?" Vara asked. "They were brought illegally," Arya explained. "Someone thought they could be tamed and used as weapons. They were wrong." The cubs watched in horror as the shadow maws tore through human defenses. These creatures were what they themselves were supposed to hunt, but there were dozens of them, and they were attacking everything that moved. Captain Collins arrived with only 12 soldiers. The human colony had thousands of people who could not fight. "We need to evacuate everyone," Collins said, "but those things are between us and the transport ships." The cubs expected to see the humans run. Shadow maws were too dangerous to fight directly, even for trained Cathara warriors. Instead, they watched Collins and his team do something incredible. They charged directly toward the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, not to hunt them, but to save people they had never met before. And somehow, they won. The recordings of Captain Collins fighting shadow maws ended abruptly. A low growl echoed across the desert, and all three cubs froze. That sound was not from the helmet. It was real, and it was close. Zek quickly removed the helmet and listened. There it was again, the hunting call of a shadow maw pack. But that was impossible. The cubs had been tracking shadow maws for days without finding any trace. "How many?" Vara whispered, her claws extending instinctively. Thrawn sniffed the air. "At least 6. Maybe more. They are coming from the south." Zek felt fear creep up his spine. 3 young Cathara could not fight 6 shadow maws. Even adult warriors avoided packs that large. The black beasts were faster than Kithara, stronger than most aliens, and completely without mercy. "We run," Thrawn said, and for once his voice showed no shame about retreat. But as they turned to flee, more growls came from the north, then from the east. The cubs realized with growing terror that they were surrounded. "They were hunting us," Vara said in shock. "While we were distracted by the human machine, they found our scent." The first shadow maw appeared on a ridge 50 yards away. It was 8 feet long, covered in black fur that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed yellow in the darkness between the rocks. When it opened its mouth, teeth like daggers caught the sunlight. "Back to back," Thrawn ordered, following traditional Cathara fighting formation. "We take as many with us as we can." More shadow maws appeared. Zek counted them quickly, 7 total. Each one was larger than any of the cubs. Their muscles rippled under their dark fur as they began to circle. "Wait," Zek said suddenly. "Put the helmet back on." "This is not the time for human tricks," Thrawn snarled. "No, listen to me. Arya showed us how Collins fought these same creatures. Maybe it can help." "Humans had weapons," Vara pointed out. "We only have claws and teeth." "Collins said they used what they had," Zek replied, grabbing the helmet. "Arya, are you active?" "Yes," came the calm voice as the helmet powered up. "I detect multiple shadow maw heat signatures surrounding your position." "How do we survive this?" "Analysis indicates you are outnumbered and outmatched in direct combat," Arya said matter-of-factly. "However, shadow maws have predictable hunting patterns. Captain Collins used these patterns against them." The largest shadow maw, clearly the pack leader, stepped closer, its eyes fixed on Thrawn, identifying him as the biggest threat. The others began to spread out, preparing to attack from all sides. "Tell us quickly," Vara demanded. Shadow Maws always attack the strongest opponent first, Arya explained. But they cannot change direction easily when they charge. Captain Collins used this weakness. The pack leader gathered itself to leap. In seconds, the battle would begin. What exactly did Collins do? Zek asked desperately. He made the strongest member of his team the bait, while the others prepared to attack from the sides. When the Shadow Maw charged, they moved. Thrawn heard this and understood immediately. I will be the bait. When the leader charges me, you two attack its flanks. That is suicide, Vara protested. You cannot dodge a Shadow Maw charge. Yes, he can, Zek said, remembering the recordings. Collins did not just dodge, he used the wreckage. Arya, is this crashed ship strong enough to stop a Shadow Maw? The hull plating should withstand impact from a charging Shadow Maw, Arya confirmed. The pack leader tensed, ready to spring. Thrawn understood the plan now. Instead of meeting the charge head-on like a traditional Cathara warrior, he would do something no Shadow Maw would expect. He would run. The great beast launched itself forward with a roar that echoed off the rocks. Thrawn waited until the last possible second, then dove to the side, rolling behind the crashed ship's hull. The Shadow Maw could not change direction in mid-leap. It crashed into the metal with a sound like thunder, stunning itself briefly. Now! Zek shouted. He and Vara attacked from both sides, just as the human soldiers had done in the recordings. Their claws found the gaps in the creature's thick hide. The pack leader howled in pain and anger, but the other 6 Shadow Maws were already moving. Scatter, Arya advised. Force them to split their attack. The cubs spread out, using the wreckage and scattered rocks for cover. Instead of standing together and fighting as Cathara tradition demanded, they made the Shadow Maws chase them separately. Vara led 2 of the beasts between twisted pieces of metal that stuck up from the sand. The creatures were too large to move easily in the narrow space. She used her smaller size to dart between obstacles while slashing at them whenever they got stuck. Zek found himself facing the youngest Shadow Maw, one closer to his own size. Instead of trading claws in a strength contest he would lose, he remembered how Sergeant Martinez had fought the robots. He let the creature think it was winning. Zek pretended to stumble, acting weaker than he was. The Shadow Maw moved in for what it thought would be an easy kill. At the last moment, Zek rolled aside and struck at the beast's exposed throat. Thrawn was having more trouble. The pack leader had recovered from its collision with the ship and was pressing him hard. The huge creature was stronger and more experienced than the young Cathara. Use the environment, Arya called out from the helmet Zek still wore. Captain Collins never fought fair when lives were at stake. Thrawn glanced around desperately. Near his feet was a piece of the ship's hull that had broken off. It had a sharp, jagged edge. Instead of fighting with honor, he grabbed the metal shard and slashed at the Shadow Maw's legs. The creature roared in surprise. It had never fought an opponent who used tools before. The battle continued for several more minutes. The cubs used every trick they had learned from the human recordings. They worked together, supported each other, and used their intelligence instead of just their strength. When it was over, 3 Shadow Maws were dead and 4 had fled into the desert. All 3 cubs were wounded but alive. They sat in the sand, breathing heavily and staring at each other in amazement. We won, Vara said in disbelief. 3 cubs defeated a Shadow Maw pack. No Cathara has ever done this, Thrawn added. He looked at his claws, still covered in Shadow Maw blood. We should be dead. Zek pulled off the helmet and looked at it with new respect. We survived because we fought like humans. This statement hung in the air. All 3 cubs understood what it meant. They had abandoned every fighting tradition of their people. They had used teamwork, strategy, and tools instead of personal strength and honor, and it had saved their lives. The elders will not believe this, Vara said. Should we tell them? Thrawn asked. For the first time, he sounded uncertain about Cathara traditions. Zek held the helmet carefully. Aria, is there more you want to show us? Yes, the AI replied. I have one final recording from Captain Collins, but I must warn you. It contains his last words before he died. Are you prepared to see how his story ends? The three cubs looked at each other. They had learned much about humans already, but something told them the most important lesson was still to come. Show us, Zek said. The three cubs sat in a circle around the helmet as Aria began the final recording. The suns were setting, painting the desert red, but none of them noticed. They had spent the entire day learning about humans, and now they were about to see the end of Captain Collins's story. This recording was made as Captain Collins's ship was crashing on this planet, Aria explained. He knew he was going to die. The image that appeared showed the inside of a damaged spacecraft. Alarms were ringing, and smoke filled the air. Captain Collins sat in the pilot's seat, his face calm despite the chaos around him. Next to him was another human, a woman in a white coat instead of military armor. The escape pod is ready, the woman said. Her voice shook with fear. We need to go now. You go, Dr. Murphy, Collins replied, his hands steady on the controls. I need to keep the ship stable until you are clear. There is room for both of us, she argued. Collins shook his head. The guidance system is damaged. If I leave now, the ship will crash into the research station. 200 people will die. The cubs watched in amazement as Collins opened the escape pod for the civilian scientist. Dr. Rachel Murphy was not a soldier. She had no weapons, no training for combat. She was exactly the kind of person Cathera would consider useless. I cannot let you die for me, Dr. Murphy said. You are not dying for you, Collins replied gently. You are living for everyone else. Your research into alien diseases will save millions of lives. My job is to make sure you survive to finish it. Dr. Murphy climbed into the escape pod with tears in her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because this is what humans do, Collins said. We protect each other, especially the ones who cannot protect themselves. The escape pod launched just as the ship's hull began breaking apart. Collins fought to keep the craft under control, steering it away from the research station below. The cubs could see his hands shaking now, but his voice remained steady. Aria, he said, looking directly at the camera that was recording him. Are you still functioning? Yes, Captain, came the AI's voice from the past. Good. I want you to record a message. If anyone finds this helmet, I want them to understand something important. Collins paused as another explosion rocked the ship. Through the window, the cubs could see the ground rushing up to meet them. Aria, show them what we really are, Collins continued. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest, but we never give up on each other. That is what makes us human. The recording grew shaky as the ship entered the planet's atmosphere. We are not perfect, Collins said. We make mistakes. We get scared. We fail sometimes. But we always try to do what is right, even when it costs us everything. The ship was falling fast now. Collins could have tried to save himself, but he kept steering away from populated areas. The galaxy is full of species that are stronger than us, he continued. Faster than us, more advanced than us. But strength without purpose is just destruction. Speed without direction is just chaos. Technology without wisdom is just danger. An explosion somewhere behind him lit up the cabin. Collins smiled sadly at the camera. We humans figured out something that many species never learn. True strength comes from lifting others up, not putting them down. Real courage means protecting the weak, not proving you are strong. The ground was very close now. In seconds, the ship would crash. Aria, I want you to remember this. If any alien finds this helmet and learns from it, then maybe they will understand what we tried to teach, that the universe is better when we work together instead of fighting each other. Collins took a deep breath. Tell them that Captain Jake Collins of the Human Colonial Marines died trying to save people. And tell them that is the most human thing anyone can do." The recording ended in a burst of static. The three cubs sat in complete silence. The suns had set while they watched, and the desert was growing cold, but none of them moved. Finally, Vara spoke. "He could have saved himself?" "Yes," Zek replied quietly. "Dr. Murphy was not even a soldier. She could not fight or protect anyone." "But her research saved millions of lives later," Arya said. "Captain Collins was right about her importance." Thrawn, who had been the most resistant to human ideas, stared at the ground. "He chose to die for someone weaker than himself." "Not weaker," Arya corrected. "Different. Dr. Murphy was weak in combat but strong in knowledge. Captain Collins was strong in combat but could not cure diseases. They needed each other." Zek understood now. "That is the secret, is it not? Humans are not weak. They are just different from each other. And instead of fighting about it, they use those differences to become stronger together." "Exactly," Arya confirmed. "That is why humans spread across the galaxy while other strong species stayed on their home worlds. Not through conquest, but through cooperation." Vara picked up the helmet and studied it carefully. "This helmet was not just protection, was it?" "No," Arya said. "Captain Collins designed me to be a teacher. He hoped that someday other species would find this helmet and learn what humans had learned. That strength comes from unity, not dominance." The three cubs looked at each other. Everything they had been taught about strength and weakness was wrong. Humans were not weak because they helped each other. They were strong because they helped each other. "What do we do now?" Thrawn asked. It was the first time any of them had heard uncertainty in his voice. "We have a choice," Zek said slowly. "We can go back to our people and say nothing. Keep the old ways. Fight each other for scraps while stronger species avoid us. Or," Vara prompted, "or we try to teach them what we learned here, that there is a better way to be strong." Thrawn looked troubled. "The elders will not listen. They will say we have been contaminated by human weakness." "Then we will have to prove them wrong," Zek replied. "The same way Captain Collins proved his strength, by protecting others instead of ourselves." Arya's voice spoke from the helmet. "If you choose to share these lessons with your people, you will face resistance. Change is always difficult." But Captain Collins believed that any species could learn to be better than they were. "Even us?" Vara asked. "Especially you," Arya replied. "The Cathara have great strength and courage. If you learn to use these gifts to protect others instead of dominating them, you could become one of the most respected species in the galaxy." Zek stood up and brushed sand from his scales. "I know what I am going to do. I am going home, and I am going to tell everyone about Captain Collins, about human courage, about what real strength looks like." "They will call you crazy," Thrawn warned. "Maybe," Zek agreed. "But maybe some will listen. Maybe some will understand that there is more to being strong than just winning fights." Vara stood as well. "I will come with you. Two voices are better than one." Both cubs looked at Thrawn. The largest of the three was struggling with everything he had seen and heard. "My whole life, I was taught that might makes right," he said finally. "That the strong deserve to rule and the weak deserve to suffer. But Captain Collins was strong, and he died to save the weak. That makes no sense to me." "It does not have to make sense," Zek said gently. "It just has to be right." Thrawn was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I will come too, but I do not understand humans yet." "None of us do," Vara said. "But maybe that is the point. Maybe understanding comes from trying to be better, not from already knowing everything." As they prepared to leave, Zek carefully placed the helmet in a carrying pouch. Arya would come with them. The AI could teach other Cathara just as it had taught them. "Aria," Zek said. "Captain Collins wanted to change the galaxy by teaching others. I think he would be happy to know his helmet is still teaching." "I believe he would be proud," Aria agreed. "He always said that the best memorial to the fallen was to continue their mission." The three cubs began the long walk home across the desert. Behind them, the wreckage of Captain Collins's ship stood silent under the stars. But his legacy walked with them in the form of three young aliens who had learned that true strength came not from conquest, but from compassion. They did not know if they could change their people. They did not know if anyone would listen to their strange ideas about cooperation and sacrifice. But they knew they had to try, because that was what humans would do. And maybe, just maybe, that was what the Cathara could learn to do too. Years later, when the first joint human-Cathara exploration ship launched from New Terra Station, it carried a crew of both species working side by side. The ship's name was painted proudly on its hull, the Jake Collins. And in the captain's cabin, three Cathara officers kept a simple human helmet on display, along with a sign that read, "True strength protects others." Captain Collins had been right. The galaxy was indeed better when different species worked together. And sometimes all it took to change the universe was three curious cubs, an old helmet, and the courage to believe that there was always a better way to be strong.